Thank you. Senator Hassan.
Well, thank you so much, Madam Chair and Ranking Member Burr, for this hearing. And thanks to our witnesses, not only for being here, but for the really important work that you all do. I want to start with a question to Ms. Cashin. Families across the country are struggling with rising costs, including the high cost of childcare. Right now, programs like Head Start and the Child Care Development Block Grant Program help a relatively small number of families, but most middle-class granted staters with child care needs don't have access to these programs. The lack of access to safe, affordable child care is keeping some parents out of the workforce, exacerbating our workforce shortages, and hindering economic growth. So how would expanding federal investment in child care help lower costs for more families in New Hampshire and all across the country?
Thank you so much for that question. So what this proposal would do is give every family the freedom to choose what works best for them that's affordable. And it would do that by building out the supply of childcare. So it addresses all the different parts of the puzzle. It addresses making it more affordable for families. It addresses putting money into the sector to make sure that states can help to grow the local supply of childcare in any different type of a setting, and make sure that programs are quality. One of the things that Ms. Reynolds has mentioned is a BA, and one of the great things about this proposal, it puts money in to help support early educators to get additional credentialing and to do the kinds of things that they would want to do. And so I think, this really will guarantee childcare for every eligible family to support those parents who are working and make sure that they have stable and reliable, safe, nurturing care for their children.
Thank you so much. Ms. Alvin, a question for you. There are many rural areas around the country, including in my home state of New Hampshire, where families do not have access to high-quality early education programs. This is in part because of a limited supply of child care centers and because of difficulty filling staff vacancies. Ms. Alvin, how could additional federal dollars help increase the availability of early education programs in rural communities?
Thank you. And I, having spent a lifetime in Arizona, know of what you speak. We did an enormous amount of work with our rural communities, with our tribal communities. And the conundrum of childcare that we've talked about today is even harder in rural communities. And so you've seen not only the lack of access, but the lack of access for early childhood educators to higher education. You've seen you have to have scale in order for the profit or the P&L to work in childcare to break even. You can't do that in small rural programs. And so this precipitous decline in family-based childcare is coupled with a squeeze that's even worse for rural programs. And again, CCDBG is foundational, it is critical, and it hasn't solved the problem of rural childcare in America. And what the proposal on the table does is create the incentives, the structure for rural communities to be able to invest in ways that the scarcity that sits in CCDBG hasn't allowed us to do over time. And I think it'll be really important. We always hear from rural communities that they feel as though they're left out,
right.
That they're left behind, and it's true. That is the case. That is what they've experienced. And creating this floor of quality expectations and creating a floor of financing that says, we're with you, we've got this, even if these are tiny programs that have trouble making ends meet, we will be there as partners for you.
Yep. Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Look forward to continuing to work with you on this. Ms. Bolivian, thank you for all the work that you're doing to support young children and families in your care. I want to highlight the importance of early intervention for young children. Over the past 2 years, many early intervention specialists like speech and occupational therapists have often not been able to screen children in a timely manner for additional services that they need. That results in screening backlogs. I recently introduced a bill that would increase funding for early intervention services under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act to better support infants and toddlers with disabilities. How do you think additional federal support for early interventions will help you address the needs of families who have infants, toddlers, and young children with disabilities?
I think it's crucial to have additional support. The services that we're getting right now are just simply not enough to meet the needs that we see. In our program, about 40% of the children that we're currently serving have an IFSP or an IEP already. And yet those services are not really able to meet all their needs. A lot of the work is left to the teachers that are caring for them during extended hours during the day. And services go out during the summertime, for example. So we have children that are bused in to receive services in a nearby school for a couple of hours a day, and then we're being left with caring for them and supporting their needs through the entire day as their parents are working. Receiving additional support to meet those needs would make such a huge difference in their lives, but also it would alleviate some of the stressors that we have in our work.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate that. And just a note how important it is that early intervention services start truly early. So any kind of backlog and screening is obviously its own kind of delay and has a ripple effect. So I thank you so much for all your work. Thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator